The Ordnance Department and the government had thought for a long time about the idea of interchangeable parts. The French armory system that created the Charleville that I showed you earlier said that it was impossible. Said that all the muskets had to be made by hand, and that to achieve interchangeability would have been difficult. Well, the idea wasn't surpassed for a while, and along comes a man from New England named John Hall, who says to the Ordnance Department and the government, you know, I've got a great idea. I think I can make you a product that will be made with interchangeable parts. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to make machines. We'll use this magnificent Shenandoah River out here, or the Potomac River perhaps, and we will take the water power that we need and we'll drive wheels and we'll make the machines that it takes to produce the parts and pieces of the gun that I want to make. I'm going to hold up a John Hall piece for you. This piece is a little later. It is a percussion piece, not a flint piece, like the musket that I showed you. The original John Hall rifle was in flint. And it's very interesting to look at. Believe it or not, a lot of these are going to wind up in both Union and Confederate hands, some of them undoubtedly walking around Jefferson County in the early years of the war. A few things that I want to discuss about the Hall. It is not a muzzle loader. John Hall designed a rifle so that principle of rifling and lands and grooves and shooting a tight-fitting ball are still part of the piece. Hall decided he would create a breech loader. If you look, you'll notice that there's a block that has risen. And the idea here is that the soldier would take that same round, tear it, pour the powder down the hole, stuff it in the hole, with his finger put the ball in and close it. Well, that speeds things up considerably. The soldiers who put this gun under test in Fort Monroe, Virginia, Fortress Monroe, thought so too. They had a trial there in the 1820s where they shot John Hall rifles, and they also shot the model 1814 Harper's Ferry conventional rifle and some contract rifles and muskets. They were getting a good rate of fire. They were also getting accuracy because it is rifled. It's a neat idea. It's kind of a strange looking gun. You notice it's swollen on the sides. Hall designed that so that it would be able to put this mechanism called the breech in place. When we talk about guns today, we'll often talk about receivers. Well, I will go out on a limb here and say this is one of the first receivers because it receives powder and a ball. All right? It's not a true receiver in today's terms, but pretty darn close. So the Hall rifle was novel. That helped to get Hall recognition. And when he told the government, I want to build this, they said, that's great. We want you to build it. He said, I want to build it in Springfield, Massachusetts, because Hall was from Maine and a New Englander. And the Ordnance Department said, that's great, but we want you to come to Harper's Ferry. That was interesting because, as you know, at the time, John Hall would have been viewed as a Yankee. And a Yankee coming to Virginia to build a Yankee product, oh my. The consternation that would cause over time. Even more so are that the men who are working in the musket factory in Harper's Ferry producing the muskets are doing it by hand. And John Hall comes with a set of ideas that says, no, I want to make machines that I can teach men how to, let's say, push a button, pull a lever, adjust the belt, and watch the machine do the work. You see, that takes the idea of handwork out of it. Now there had been other inventors, and specifically armorers, Simeon North, Eli Whitney to be sure, who in this period had tried to take machinery and had tried to utilize it, and specifically Whitney had tried to come up with an idea of interchangeability. Of course we know Eli Whitney because of the cotton gin, but also we know Mr. Whitney because he had created some rifles and pistols. He didn't quite get to the point where he needed to be with interchangeability. All that would change with John Hall, however, when by 1826 his first piece, he's ready to have it tested. What Hall had wanted to do was to make a series of these and then put them in a pile in parts and pieces on the floor of his factory, and have inspectors come and reassemble, let's say, 3 of them, just from random parts of piles. Well, the thing that I want to mention that is important to Jefferson County history in this war era, or antebellum era actually, is that the first person in history to achieve interchangeable parts made by a machine completely did it in Jefferson County. And he did it in the Hall Rifle Works on what is known as Hall's Island, or today Virginia's Island if you are in Jefferson County. Hall had Mr. Sage, Mr. Carrington, and Mr. Bell come. They were a committee sent up, and these gentlemen took pieces and parts of his different rifles that had been disassembled, and they did reassemble the pieces on the floor, and they notified the Ordnance Department that yes, indeed, John Hall has accomplished that thing which we wanted to do. Well, that ushers in an entirely new era, and I'm taking the time to mention this to you because I want you to see how critical this is. Men are going to fight the Civil War with pieces like the one I first showed you, handmade muskets, flintlock muskets in 1861. If parts break, as I told you, there are no boxes of parts for them to reach into and replace broken pieces. They have to take the gun and they have to discard it, or they have to call for another gun if they can pick one up or find it. It's an issue. What we're seeing with the John Hall rifle is what I would like to call a paradigm shift, because we've gone from a non-mechanized made product to a product that is suddenly not only machine made, but a product that can have boxes of parts in the rear waiting, if needs be, for an ordnance sergeant to run back and go get the right piece if it fails, or after the battle or what have you. They can be repaired on the battlefield. Hall achieved a great amount of fame in Harper's Ferry. As I told you, he was a Yankee, so he achieved a great deal of malice from Superintendent Stubblefield and Armistead Beckham and some of the other armory officials at the time. And John Hall originally came here with the idea of producing this product. As I am showing you now, what would come about is a whole new system called percussion, and this piece that I hold in my hand is a John Hall, and it's marked 1832. That's when it was manufactured, and it now has a percussion system. I better take a little time and discuss that with you.